Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. It's Brandon Burns, your Head of Community at Runway. This is our Swerve podcast and vodcast, and it's our Startup Grassroots series. Next to me is a very special guest, local entrepreneur and an amazing person all around, Rebeccah Vivian from Salon. How are you?
Wow, what an intro.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, we're live here, obviously, in the Pulse Studios, and we're excited to have Rebeccah on the program because she's a speaker at our upcoming Clever and Creative event. And the topic we're delivering there is building your brand and leveraging social media.
Yes.
And obviously, it's a thrill to have someone like you on the show because you can talk directly to our audience and local entrepreneurs around how to do exactly that.
Yes.
I've obviously watched your business from afar, and a lot of people watching and listening will identify with the brand already. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing to see the trajectory at which you've been able to go and take your business, and it appears that social media has played a real role in that.
Yeah, it definitely has.
But look, before we get to the crux of, I guess, how social media has played a big part, tell me a bit more broadly so the audience can get a feel for you about, your journey to date and what's maybe led you to where you are now.
Well, that is a very broad question.
Are you a Geelong local?
I am Geelong born and bred.
Sweet.
I started my business in 2011.
Awesome.
From humble beginnings. I think I painted the shop myself.
Yeah, really?
Yes. I started with one other girl,
Yeah.
and now I think I have 22 on staff.
Geez, that's excellent.
At the moment. So we were in our East Geelong location for about 7 years.
Yep.
And 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, we moved into our new location in Ryrie Street.
Ryrie Street, mm-hmm. Cool.
I have two little boys, Frankie and Eddie, who are 5 and 2.
Awesome.
So I'm a mum, and
are you a mumpreneur?
I am, apparently.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
I don't really identify as being an entrepreneur. A lot of people have been calling me that. I just see myself as a businesswoman and a hard worker.
Getting it done.
I do get it done. Sometimes, as we were talking about before, I bring in some extra help to get me to be able to do everything that I intend to do, that I set out to do at the start of the day. But I think when you get to my stage, that's something that you have to implement.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think you're definitely an entrepreneur, and one thing that sticks out to me is the growth, like the rapid growth that you and your business appear to have had, and that stands out to me as someone who's obviously got an understanding for scale and wanting to push the boundaries and always grow their business.
Yes.
As much as you might be really owning a particular niche, you don't feel like a business that wants to stay small and boutique. You really look like you're pushing it to grow as much as it can.
I do, yes, and I would like it to grow even further.
So tell me, what made you, are you just naturally like that, or did something that you saw or heard make you go, I want to have that type of business? I don't just want to be niche and small.
I don't think I ever set out for it to grow like this, and I think I'm one of those people that gets off on it. Yeah,
great. So seeing the growth happen.
And we have built a culture, I think, in my business. We have a great team, and we all enjoy spending time together. And it's just happened. I actually rarely have to advertise for stuff because they'll generally come to us.
Wow.
And we attract like-minded people who enjoy their craft.
Yep.
So I feel that's actually been quite an easy part of my job, recruitment. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So people listening and watching are obviously going to Google or look up on social media, Blondie Salon, and they'll get a feel for what you do. But maybe take the opportunity to tell me, beyond just being a salon, exactly what it is you do and the experience that you've designed for people that come into your business, not just from a customer perspective, but also, like you mentioned, from an employee perspective.
Okay. So I guess firstly, I'm a little bit left of centre.
Yeah.
And I'm very artsy. So, and I love different things. I've never been a follower. I actually like to do things differently than everybody else, which I actually feel, I was chatting to somebody yesterday, one of my clients, she's a school teacher, and she said it's so hard because all the kids are trying to follow what everybody else is doing. And I said, well, the most successful ones will probably be the people that are doing something different than everybody else.
Totally.
And it's funny because once you do something different, like if you look at my store, it's probably different than most salons you'll see. And I feel that now everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. So perhaps my next store will have to be totally different again. But we also, you can't just get the success and growth that we have had from just having a great looking store. You've got to have, as I said, good team culture and be producing amazing work as well. And I have had a big learning curve in the last, I would say, 12 to 18 months. I am very flippant and I'm all over the shop most of the time, but I've had to implement a lot of structure in my life and systems with management and tiered management, because I was trying to do everything and I found that I couldn't. I was getting burnt out.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you've obviously designed a really good user experience in salon. Tell me about the importance of the experience of the user or potential clients that are finding your business and being exposed to it online and with social media, and the strategy that goes into sort of curating that and starting that experience to get them into your environment.
Okay. So I don't really know where to start with that, but I think like going back, I was on social channels quite early.
Okay. So you're an early adopter with...
I was. Yes. And I probably copped a lot of slack for it back in the day. So I worked in television doing hair and makeup, and I was quite proud of the work that I was producing. So when I was a one-man show, I was posting photos of my work on Facebook and probably MySpace back then.
MySpace, wow.
You guys wouldn't know what MySpace is probably. But,
I had a MySpace account,
and so I guess that's where it started. But now, it's integral to our business or my business. We do get, yes, it's a hard one because I can take an image and that I think will do really well, and sometimes it doesn't. But other times, we can do a post and it has a lot of reach. So sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. But we do find that most of our business is driven by social media. So,
totally.
If we have spare appointments, say, we'll post that we have some spare appointments and they'll generally fill up. So,
great.
Yeah, we are definitely, our business is controlled by social media.
Yeah, totally. It sounds like you've really built a tribe and a loyal sort of fan base and client base that have real transparency into your business. And it seems to be benefiting you.
It is, yeah. And we were discussing before listening to Gary Vee, and I've kind of ramped up my my social media presence of late.
As the founder and the person behind the business, yeah?
Yes.
Couldn't agree more, yeah.
Because, he's sort of take on social media is you should be posting very frequently and no content is too much. So we try and I feel like everybody is wanting that insight even into what you're doing personally. So I am trying to implement that into our social media as well. Letting people see inside what the Blondie babes are doing, what each of us is doing behind the scenes when we're not at work.
So we just stumbled across something there. So you mentioned Blondie babes.
Yeah.
So what is a Blondie babe? Where did the concept come from? And how is it benefiting your business both inside and out?
I guess it was just something that... we started calling ourselves. So my staff are all, and accidentally, but they all look very similar. They might come in with brunette hair and they end up blonde after 6 months working in the salon. So we do have 2 brunettes that currently work with us, but
trying to convert them.
And I guess I just always call them the babes. They're very young and they've got so much energy. So we just kind of did we branded ourselves as the Blondie babes. So we use that as one of our hashtags. actually more recently, people are sort of calling us Beck and the Blondie Babes or Beck and the Blondettes.
Wow. There's like a show in the making
yes.
there. But is that empowering for the staff as well?
It is, definitely. Yeah. And they love being part of that team.
Love it. Okay, so here's a question that I ask every guest, and we try to flip it a bit, because obviously there's plenty of really good advice you would have received along your journey. But like, if you had to highlight a couple of pieces of advice that you wouldn't give again that you've received, what might they be?
I think my biggest advice is don't ever take no for an answer. I truly believe that there's always a way around every single situation. When I first opened my business in 2011, a trusted advisor advised me to stay small, to start small. My gut instinct told me that the branding of me and the brand that I wanted to build had the potential to grow quite quickly.
Yes.
And fortunately, and unfortunately, I loved where I started off. It was, I chose a good position. I was amongst other, uber cool little shops, but the store was so small that I didn't have that room to grow. So I trusted their advice over my gut instinct, and I wish that I had have trusted my gut and perhaps allowed myself to look a little bit further and deeper into where I should locate my salon, so that I had that room to grow.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've relocated the salon from East Geelong into Geelong CBD.
Yes.
What was the sort of the analysis and reason for arriving at that decision? Because some people would say, there's pockets of Geelong like Geelong West and other areas that could be seen as really hip. And what sort of got you over the line to go, this is the
location. Again, I do trust my gut a lot now, and follow my heart, and I am also a very aesthetic person. If something appeals to me aesthetically, which that shop did, it had the feel that I wanted. It was a big warehousey feel. A lot of people that are around me that had advised me not to go into the Geelong CBD, but I believe that we are a destination, and I also believe, which is sort of showing true now, that there's people sort of following us. Ryrie Street, where we're located, was pretty dingy before we opened our store. But there's actually little stores all popping up around us now. So I believe that I made the right decision.
So they followed you?
Yes, they have.
Yep, very nice. So tell me, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Instagram's, the bigger tool for you in social media?
It is, yes.
And we were talking off air before. I was picking your brain around how to best leverage when we do a short video piece to camera on the phone, whether to split that up across stories or if there's other options. Like, what would you say is a change that you've made recently with regard to that?
So I would say moving over to IGTV.
So what is that exactly?
It is still an Instagram platform, but it allows you to post longer videos.
Okay, cool. Uninterrupted
videos. So you can still hashtag and geolocation and do all of those things, but it'll actually post a snippet on your Instagram feed.
Yes.
And then you can then press continue watching, and it will take you over to the IGTV platform.
Okay, cool. So if I was to ask you, with your business, you've got a website, you've got social media platforms. Do you have a phone in the salon?
I do.
Out of necessity?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, cool. How much have you seen a movement in people making bookings from maybe phone and traditional website to social media?
We are definitely seeing a shift.
Yeah.
I'm still a bit old school. I'm 39 years old.
Okay,
so
cool.
I still do want to consultate with that person over the phone and really find out what they're needing.
Yep.
But in saying that, we are just about to change our computer system over, our booking system.
Yep.
And we will do online bookings, and we will probably then also do Instagram and Facebook bookings as well.
So how do you handle when yourself and other staff would no doubt be receiving like direct messaging on platform for an appointment and all? How do you handle that huge influx of different people choosing to communicate with your business differently?
Yeah. We've had to delegate the tasks of replying to different front of house. So
Okay.
I have 3 front of house girls.
Yes.
That all work part-time and they job share. So originally it was me trying to reply to people on Instagram, on Facebook. You know, we had so many platforms. And yeah, so now, you know, the Facebook DMs are done by Lauren and the Instagram, you know, ones are done by somebody else. So we've had to put systems in place so that people are getting replied to.
Yes.
And it's consistent and we're giving that level of service.
Do you find that people are more inclined to want to communicate and inquire via like a direct messaging function because it's a bit frictionless?
Rather than a telephone?
Yeah,
yes, they do.
Yeah.
They do. They really do.
That's very interesting because I've noticed that with promoting events and everything through social and LinkedIn, it's so much more cut through direct messaging.
They are,
you know, as much as some people who haven't done it before would think it's a bit spammy, I've actually found it to be really effective.
It is really effective.
Short and sweet.
It was hard for us in the beginning and for me to get my head around it when I guess it was more so when we did shift into the new store or the new premises, to be able to reply to everybody, and people were getting annoyed when you didn't. So putting those systems in place and making sure that you are replying is definitely a big one. And as I said, we'll probably move over to, we may not even need a telephone eventually.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so if you were starting out again, or perhaps if you were, you know, talking to someone who's looking to start a business themselves, what are probably like 2 or 3 key things that, I mean, there's so many things to do and have in place, but if you had to say these are like the 2 or 3 hallmarks you must have before you even consider, you know, your marketing plan or anything else, what would those key things be?
Wow,
Like some people might say, you know, vision and values. Some people might say get your culture right. Others might say business plan. But like, what would you say is the thing, you know, before you even think about how exciting, you know, your business is going to be, marketing it and advertising?
Yes. As I said before, I always believe where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
You have to believe in your brand. You can't go into a new business just purely to try and make money. You have to believe in what you're about to build.
Yep.
I think that's a big one. Don't ever take no for an answer. If you want something bad enough, you can make it happen. There's always avenues to, you know, to negotiate.
Do you remember your first hire, who that was, and whether it was a daunting task or your first couple of hires, you know, your first small team?
Yeah. I actually knew, her name was Stevie. She's a really cute little hair and makeup artist, and she was a friend of a friend. So I actually knew her, so I felt quite comfortable hiring her. She had resigned from her job before the store was open, so I had a couple of weeks where I actually had to pay her wages without her working. So that was, you know, at that stage, I wasn't really making any money. The shop wasn't even open. I was still working on the side, and then at the end of the day, I would go into my new store and I would start building, you know, helping all the tradies and painting, and I was up on ladders to get this store open.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And,
that's awesome.
And she actually was very integral in that. She would come in, even because I was paying her, and she would come and help me paint. So that was really good, yeah.
Yeah, cool. It sounds like you've got a really good ability to get people who work with you, not for you, to buy in.
Yeah.
It sounds like it makes your life a whole lot easier.
I think people believe in my brand.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what happens if you rock up to work with brunette hair? Are they all not believe in the brand anymore? Or?
No, we love having a brunette. We would love to have a male come into the salon because we're all females.
Yeah.
And not
balance it up.
Yeah, we would love to have some testosterone in there.
So tell me, right, because I've got time for a couple more questions. What is, you know, your biggest achievement in your mind to date? And this does not necessarily have to be strictly business speaking. It could be personal, it could be family, it could be, you know, whatever that may be. But what would you put down to being the biggest thing in your mind?
Well, I actually have 2. My first one's a personal one, and that would have to be my 2 children. They bring so much joy to my life. And unfortunately, I do suffer with mum guilt a lot.
Yeah.
Because I am an entrepreneur and I do work so much. But my second would be, and this is probably a good one, for people maybe doing a startup, is that I actually took on a business partner 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
And it didn't work. And this year in July, I actually brought her out. So
what made you convince yourself that you needed a business partner?
I think the business was growing. I was about to actually have my second child, Eddie. Yep. And I guess I just thought that taking somebody on would give me some free time to be a mum at home.
Yep.
And to have that second person as a backup, and that would, offload some of the pressure from me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't really work out that way. And it probably put more stress on me than what it should have.
So the takeout is, don't necessarily think you need a partner or co-founder.
Partner, yes. Yeah.
And
I think from experience and talking to people, because I would never have been privy to that type of situation, but I guess now my eyes are more open to it, and people know this situation that I went through taking on a business partner.
Yep.
I'm having a lot of conversations, and I'm hearing a lot of people say that partnerships generally don't work.
Yeah, right.
They
all come to an end eventually, yeah?
Or they're hard. They're hard work. A lot of business partnerships are hard work. Perhaps maybe with a spouse might be easier.
Yeah.
But then that brings its own problems as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure people do it really well, but I think you'd have to have clearly defined job roles.
Well, we encourage at Runway, obviously, for people to start up in groups and teams.
Yes.
But the one key difference there is our environment gives them direct access and actually pairs them up with mentors, coaches and advisors.
Yes.
And I reckon that's the glue probably that allows a team to operate effectively. And so was part of you wanting a business partner also, were you looking for a complementary skill set maybe that you've now found in like a mentor or a coach or an advisor? Or?
And I now have a business coach.
You do? Okay, great.
Yeah, I do have a business coach, which I did implement when we were in the partnership.
Yep.
But I think my mistake was probably not choosing somebody who did have complementary skills to my skill set.
Yep.
It's a difficult one. She was a friend of mine, so I think that made it harder. I think you have to have a really good partnership agreement.
Yep.
That clearly defined job roles for it to work. And I'm sure it probably does work, but you need to have an exit strategy.
Yep. Totally.
So if it doesn't work, what happens?
Yeah, totally. And so that's a great insight. I love hearing that. So the final question would be, who's someone that inspires you or that you look up to, and who's someone that maybe you're reading something by or you're following closely online? I know we talked about Gary Vee.
Yes, I love Gary Vee.
And that's interesting to hear that he's got quite a big following with the female market as well as males.
He does.
But when I talk to guests on the show, like yourself, female guests, I ask them who's that person in your space, and they don't really have like a go-to like Gary Vee. Some have said Naomi Simpson from Red Balloon or Janine Ellis, but it's interesting. Like, do you have a particular female entrepreneur that you follow, or?
It's funny. No one's popping into my head at the moment.
Whereas Gary Vee would,
he
wouldn't
does.
Yeah.
He really does. And I listen to his podcasts. I listen to a few. And I'm really terrible with names, but I've been listening to actually Sophia Ambrosio, I think her name is, from Girl Boss Radio.
Yes, yeah.
Is another one that I tend to listen to a lot of business podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcasts. And and there is another Australian girl, and I cannot remember her name, but her podcast is called Seize the A.
Yes.
And she's an entrepreneur as well. She has Matcha Maiden, which is, I think drinks and all sorts. But but I guess who I look up to in my industry is actually a male, and that is Jay Edwards, who has Edwards & Co.
Yes.
He has...
based out of...
6 or 7 locations around Australia.
Wow,
so
okay.
He's really branded himself well. They produce amazing work. I've listened to him talk a couple of times, and I guess he's a little bit like me. He's all over the shop. You know, he's not too planned, but he is highly creative, and he's had to implement structures into his life and have a team of people to help him run his businesses. And I guess, you know, I do look up to him.
So what's next for 12 months down the track for Blondie Salon?
I think that I would like to have some more locations. Potentially Melbourne and perhaps somewhere down the coast. We also we're dipping our toe into the skin side of things at the moment, so dermal therapies, which is going great guns, and we currently have that inside our location, but we may then branch out and do Blondie skin elsewhere.
So what's the best way for people to discover you further and reach out?
Well, our Instagram handle is at blondie.salon, or Blondie Salon on Facebook.
So is there anything else before we wrap up that you wanted to add for, you know, aspiring entrepreneurs out there who are just starting their journey? You know, this is your chance. Anything you want to share with them?
I would say definitely get yourself a mentor, as somebody that you do look up to, but always take their advice with a grain of salt. You always trust your instinct. And if you feel like something's not right, it generally is not right. So trust your instincts and follow your heart. And work hard. You've got to work hard.
Well, you clearly are with the two kids, and that's great. Well, Rebeccah Vivian, we can't wait to have you along as our special guest at Clever and Creative.
Yay.
This has been an awesome chat.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. We'll see you on the next episode, guys, and thanks again, Rebeccah.
Bye.